You are now in this company. It's important to understand that every company has got its own culture, its own way of doing things. They could be bad, they could be good. We expect, of course, companies to focus on doing the right things. But when you go into a new company, first things, understand the culture of this company. Understand what this company is all about. What is its vision, mission? What is it trying to achieve? Then understand also the structures. Who reports to who? Who has the power over what? So understand those dynamics. It's very, very critical, because you may find that you start to ruffle feathers with some people unknowingly. When you understand the structures, the system, understand even the processes, that's why it's important that if you find that, because in some companies people just will come here and say, oh, here's your desk, so start working. Even when you have a lot of years of experience, please find time to meet with the HR and ask them, please, can you take me through what this company is all about? Some of the things you will not find them in books. They are practices. So as a new employee, when you have this change in your life, understand first of all, what are the practices in this company? Even simple things that we have talked about, including the way you call someone. Is it Mr.? Are you calling them by first name? Are you calling them by their last name? Yeah. Even simple things like which cup someone can use, because you may find that you are picking a cup, you are making your coffee innocently, but that's a cup for somebody else, and they don't want someone to touch their cup. So there are all these dynamics that when you join a company, number one, understand the goal, understand the strategic direction of the company, then understand the departments, understand the structures in terms of who reports to who, then understand everything, even the processes that are followed in that particular company. For instance, if you are coming from the private companies, you may find that some decisions, today you have a discussion, decisions are made, things are being bought, same day, everything is done. You move to a public institution, you find that even something that you thought you could be bought by today, it may take another couple of months, because there are processes to follow. You have your procurement processes under the ZPPA. So you have a lot of things that you need to learn and adjust, so that even as you operate, you are operating within the processes of the company. Because you may find that as you try to do your speed, you find now that you are committing offenses because you have not followed the process in this company. Also, if you are moving, say, from a public institution to a private company, you will be used to all these long processes. And then when you are in the private company, they don't have time for that. You'll be saying, oh, where is this? Why? The guys are looking at you and say, hey, where are you? You are now being seen to be so slow. So it's very, very important that you understand the processes in the new company where you are, so that whatever you are doing, you are right on point. You mentioned the colleagues who get a promotion. Again, even for those, if you've gotten a promotion, you have to also understand that it's a new thing. I see a lot of people, when they get to be promoted, there is celebration and everything. And the mistake that people make is that they think the way they were operating when they were as an individual, as a junior officer, for instance, that's the way they are going to operate, even when now they are a supervisor, a manager. It cannot work like that. It's a totally new, different thing. So that's why we emphasize that when you get a promotion, there is need to now invest in learning how to manage other people. For instance, you could be working. I remember when I was in a microfinance institution, and there we had some incredible credit officers. They go out, they meet their targets, they give out loans and so on. But then when it came to the time for promotion, they said, well, no, they could be promoted. They said, look, they still need to undergo training on management and supervision. Why? Because the way you work as an individual is totally different when now you are supervising another person. You now have to invest in learning what does it mean to influence these people below me. Because you cannot just say, hey, do this. No, this is not military, it's a company. So you have to understand how to manage others, how to bring people together who also think what they are doing is the best. But now you are now a supervisor, and you have to embrace this change, invest in learning management and leadership skills. And that's why we encourage people to attend these various workshops and trainings that are conducted for such kind of groups. So it's important to look at all these things in totality.
Amazing. You did mention something like being stuck in the past.
Mm-hmm.
However, sometimes you can even tell that this new change in a company maybe has been tried before and it did not work at that particular time. So how can you put it across to management that this particular change you're trying to make in this company won't work, minus of offending them? Because sometimes I mean, it's hard to get to give advice to management. I mean, they'll just say you are a junior and you know nothing about how to run a company. So how can one put across such kind of information to get through to management?
It's true. At the time that you are having these changes in the company, of course, certain changes, you could even see that, okay, this idea, boss variator, I think, you know, so in other words, these are things that have been done before, but maybe didn't, yield the desired results. The issue is you will need to be extremely careful in terms of how you say it. And this is where a lot of employees lose it, because they come out like it's a fight. Hey, no, we can't do this. No, this can't be done. Well, we are now appearing to be fighting, which is not what it calls for.
No, Mr. Kabanda, in a situation where you are polite, just trying to have a conversation with this particular boss, but still they can't give you that platform to give them your ideas.
Of course, so this is where we're saying you also, as an employee, need to invest in learning communication. Now, communication, we're talking about how do you put across your idea without appearing to be negative, without appearing to be stuck in the past. So it's important when you are putting across the ideas, you first of all understand what the supervisors or what the company is trying to achieve, the new thing. Why are we saying that? There are circumstances that happened in the past. When that made the idea you're thinking will not work now, there are circumstances that were happening at that time. There could be different circumstances. And when we talk about circumstances, for instance, this idea could have come up in the past, but maybe there was no money to implement it. Or this idea could have come up in the past, but maybe we didn't have the people who are experienced to execute it. Or the idea came up in the past, but then there was no support from top management or the board. So now you may find that the situation has changed. It's different circumstances. Maybe you have full support of the board, you have full support of top management, the resources are there in terms of maybe the people or the money that could have been missing or the equipment. So the circumstances could be different. So for you, who is now just coming and saying, no, this doesn't work, you should also evaluate what were the circumstances. Are the circumstances that we had that time the same as now? Because you'll find that when you analyze everything, probably there's a difference in circumstances. Like I've said, maybe the support from top management and the will to implement certain things. So it's important that you're careful around what you're trying to put across. Secondly, as you put across these ideas, show that you are agreeable or you have adapted and want to do this thing, and you are passionate about implementing this new idea. And when you are talking to management, you are now just saying, oh, boss, we also had the chance to look at this issue. Now you are highlighting some limitations that you saw or the risks, we can call them the risks, that you think could come with implementation. The challenge that we have, like I said, is where people just say, no, this is no, at that point you are now being labeled as somebody who doesn't want to change, and unfortunately it's employment. You should know that your employment, the employer can terminate your employment at any time when they think you are not aligned or you are not working together as a team, unfortunately. So that's why we tell employees and the juniors or whatever, whenever you want to put across your ideas, be on the positive side, as well as you can highlight some of the risks that you think, or the challenges or the limitations that you think could come as you are trying to implement these new changes. But show that you're adaptable and you want to change.
Now, Mr. Kabanda, you being a neuropsychologist, when changes are being implemented in a company, how can employees cope with the changes that take place in a company, minus offending either the management or just the staffs just around? Because I mean the emotions that usually take place when there are certain changes happening in companies, but how can they cope with changes happening?
Yes, first of all, is to develop some level of resilience. It's not easy. I know we're talking about these things like changes are easy, because a change could drastically change your life, a change in the company. You may have been working in a certain way and then they take away a particular section or a particular function.
Just find people crying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it, just one change in a company could actually really change your life even at home. Some people, sometimes it ends up even that change could even lead to the jobs ending. Sometimes it's a change that leads to your salary even being reduced, as an example. Of course, you have to consent. But of course, people sometimes they don't have options, so they end up consenting. They agree to such changes. But of course, there are processes to follow, even as we talk about those things. So what we're saying is the changes that happen in businesses or in companies could actually affect you negatively or positively as an employee. What is key is for you as an employee to be able to, adapt. Look at the changes and ask yourself, what do I need to do to adapt? Because as I've said, if you continue remaining in the past, the world moves on. So you cannot remain in the past. If you have gotten a new, for instance, you are in a department, you have gotten a new manager or a new supervisor, and they are implementing changes and you want to remain, no, that's not the way we do it, you will be moved. Worse enough, you can be fired. Because the new manager will say, look, I don't think we can work with this person. Unfortunately, those are the realities of life. We are not saying that's the way it should be. Ideally, a new manager should influence the team, should manage the team well, should lead the team well. But there are those who may want to still remain stuck in the way things are being done in the past. And at that point, a line has to be drawn. And so it's important that as an employee, you embrace the changes. See what needs to be done. What is it that they're asking you to do? How do you fit into the new direction that the company wants to take? So that then you change yourself. I keep on emphasizing, remaining stuck in the past does not help you in any possible way. Because the only thing it will help you is really you finding a way out of an institution. So it's important that you embrace change and then you see how best to implement those changes in your life as well as the way the company wants to operate.
You did mention that when certain changes are taking place in a company, sometimes several employees are separated from the company, but how should this be handled?
Yeah, so changes which lead to employee separation, they are really the most difficult. There are changes that will happen in a company. For instance, it's just an improvement in the system where you want employees to follow a particular process in a better way, or you increase your production rate percentage, or you reduce your costs. There are these changes that can easily be implemented in the company, which don't lead to employees losing their employment. However, there are times that the changes that you are trying to implement in a company would lead to employees losing their jobs. Now, like I said, this is the most difficult change. So what normally should happen is, first of all, sit down as a company. What is it that we're trying to do? If we implement this change, what is it that what's the end goal? And then as a company now you have to sit down and look at the processes that should be followed. The law has provided for the step-by-step process you should follow if you're going to lay off employees. How are you going to separate with this employee? Is it a performance-related issue where you have to go through a disciplinary process, or is it a redundance issue? So there are different ways in which you're going to separate with employees. What is key is that the company should know what it is doing, and where you have a challenge, bring in the experts. That's why they are there, to take your company through step by step. How would you separate with employees? There has to be clear communication to the employees. Why are you making these changes in the company? Otherwise, the employees will start speculating and thinking, oh, maybe they are now firing us because we are from the north, we are from the west, we are from the east, from the whatever. You start bringing unnecessary things. Or people start to say, no, they just don't want our section. So there has to be clear communication why certain decisions are being made in the company, so that you also make the other people who are not going to be affected by that decision know why they are remaining. So it's important that you have that clear communication and you know what you're going to do, and at the same time the process should be done in a professional manner. It's not a fight. Separating with employees should never be seen like it's a fight, or now I'm here to fix someone. That all that is very unnecessary. Do it in a professional manner, because those people, you never know. Today this person is your junior and you're letting them go. I see some people getting overexcited. Hey, yeah, I'm fixing this one. Yeah, what are you doing? This is just job, you know. At the end of the day, no, don't take it personal. It's nothing personal. It's just a job. So if you separate with the person and you're now jumping all over the place, I fixed them. It's not necessary. Just sit down with the person. Like I said, if it's a disciplinary matter, you take them through a disciplinary process. You will let them go, because you never know what happens tomorrow. The very person you have fired, tomorrow yourself, you can get out of employment, and you find that person went earlier than yourself, and they have even created a business. Now you want to go and work there, or you want to be a supplier to that same company. So life is sometimes you never know. That very person could end up being on a board in another company where you want to go, and then they just see you coming. Of course, it's not supposed to be like that, but we know it's human nature that sometimes certain things get to happen like that. So that's why we tell people, just do things in a professional manner. If you have to separate with staff, separate with them in a professional manner, nothing personal.
I hope employers are taking note of that. Now, if we can also talk about persons who remain in the company after their colleagues have been separated from the company, should employers be concerned about them?
Definitely. The people that remain in the company, we have said this time and again, you need to pay a lot of attention to that group if you are a business owner or a manager. Because there is one thing that we call survivor syndrome. What that means simply is that you have the people that remain in the company, but they are asking themselves, how did we survive this? And so at the end of the day, they are really thinking, I am probably the next one to go.
Yes.
So what then do you have? You have a workforce that is with you. Maybe you are 100, you have reduced to 60. 40 people have gone. The 60 are asking themselves, how did I survive? So you now need to ask yourself, what should we do? That means now you have to start talking to these employees to make sure that they understand why, like I said, make it clear why the separation with staff is happening. And then the people will remain counseling them. Because if you don't take time as management to counsel the staff, to help them to settle down, they will remain, one part of them is working, the other part is not working. Because they are actually thinking, I'm going next. So what do? First of all, they can't give they can't give 100% because they are very much worried about the job, because especially if you are doing your changes in a manner that is not properly coordinated. The person will be there, maybe I'm next. On top of that, they'll be busy making applications, because this place now is not a safe place. You find others are now reporting, I'm sick. They have to go to funerals, just because now they are thinking this environment is not very safe for them. So it's important that the survivors, the employees that you remain with in the company, you make sure that you are managing them very well, help them to understand, counsel them, so that they can then become productive. Otherwise, the changes you are making in the company, especially changes that lead to some employees leaving, it could be counterproductive, where people now start to pull back rather than now applying themselves. But what we say to the employees also, if you remain after such changes, again, adapt, like we have said, adapt, and now see where is the company trying to take us, so that again you can be relevant.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kabanda, for those insights. Now, you being a management and leadership advisor, if you can please maybe talk about how can management maybe effectively communicate their understanding of their changes and how this change will affect the employees. How would you, what kind of a conversation would you have around this topic?
Yeah, so for supervisors especially, it's very important that they make certain things very clear. Supervisors, I'll give an example of a supervisor. You are not in top management. You are like the person who's in between. And this also includes even the HR practitioners, for instance. Some HR practitioners, when you are working, you are actually in between the employer and the employees. The same applies to supervisors. You have the people that are below you, and you have your top management. But when I talk about supervisor, it can even be someone who is in top management, depending on who they are supervising. So the point is supervisors need to make sure, first of all, they understand what this change is about. We have seen some supervisors in the course of our practice, supervisors becoming the biggest alarmists, if I can call it that way. The person who hear something in management meetings, they are rushing to tell the employees, things are bad here. And they really create a situation where everybody is now very anxious. Now, that is not very good leadership. The key issue is you need to go and first understand what is this change all about. Sit down with top management, let them help you to understand. Because some things are discussed in boardrooms. And this not every employee who is going to be there. So you as a supervisor, you have an opportunity, for instance, to know what is going on. So you understand what the change is all about. And also as a supervisor, you need to demonstrate yourself that you are changing. So that then from there you can also now communicate the right things to the employees who are below you, so that you help them to understand what is this change all about, what preparations do they need to make, and basically put the team at ease. And sometimes you know that some people will have to go. Make it very clear. There are certain truths that you have to deal with, and if you don't know how to do it, okay, that's why you have in companies, you have the human resource practitioners. In many businesses, they have HR. The HR is supposed to be trained to deal with such matters. You can invite them over to your team. Maybe you have a section. You have maybe the general workers, the operators, or whatever. I don't know the set of the company. In that particular case, the supervisor will call the HR to help the team to understand certain things. But over and above, it's the responsibility of the supervisor to help the people that they are supervising to understand the changes that are happening.
Now, when the changes are now happening mostly in companies for supervisors, is there any strategies that they can employ to lead their teams through changes in a successful way?
Definitely. As a supervisor, you need to be there for your people. So when there are changes actually happening, because before we were even talking about how they prepare the team, when the actual changes are happening, again, the supervisor needs to show that they are adaptable to this change, they are positive about the change. It is not easy, because even you as a supervisor, you're also an employee. So sometimes you can literally move around and be very gloomy, and you are the one who is showing the saddest face, especially because you have more information. So and the juniors are looking at you and say, hey, so the supervisor really needs to be, at the time that the change is actually being implemented, embrace the change and start to build the team. Sit down with the team, listen to their concerns and answer their concerns. Also, as a supervisor, you are at the place where you are in between the employees and the top management. Also, be able to communicate certain concerns of the staff to top management. Again, without mentioning names. Again, this is where we have a problem. Sometimes, can you imagine Rapidi Tavare 5? Already you have set up that person to be maybe fired. So there could be genuine concerns that employees can bring to you as a supervisor. Embrace those concerns, look at them. If you can deal with them at that level, deal with them. If there are concerns that you think you cannot manage at that point, they need to be escalated to top management. Do so. Also, be able to give feedback. When top management gives feedback about what they think about those employee concerns, again, be free to give that feedback to the staff. Basically, moving together with the team, that is what is very critical.
Now, as a management and leadership advisor, Mr. Kabanda, you know that top management and CEOs play a crucial role in shaping the vision and direction of the companies during the changes. What steps can this group take to lead the organizations through transitions in an effective way?
Yes, so really, when you look at top management and CEOs, their job, basically, they need to make sure that what the changes is supposed to bring should be very clear. So what's the vision of this company in the first place? What are we trying to achieve as this company in these changes that we want to bring? This business of today you wake up, no, we are going to the left. Tomorrow, I think now to the right. No, stop. Then you can't run a business like that. If you are in top management, it is very important, first of all, understand, first of all, if you have your shareholders or the board, understand where do they want to go. In some businesses, you don't even have these elaborate governance structures. They are small businesses per se. So you as top management and as CEO, you really you are carrying the responsibility on your shoulders of giving the direction the company needs to go. So it is very, very important that even before starting to effect the changes, you have a clear understanding of where you want this business to go, know where you want to go, how are you going to get there, what are the key things you're going to be seeing as you try to get there. So it's very, very important that when you have this clear understanding, then you start now bringing down to junior management or middle management and all this stuff. Once you start doing that, also involve employees from time to time. Because sometimes you have an idea of where you want to go, and these new things you want to now achieve in this new year or the years to come. You can involve the other employees, and they can give their input. But at the end of the day, top management has that responsibility to make sure that the things that need to be achieved need to be are actually achieved. So there is that huge responsibility, but key to it, have clear vision of where you want to go, so that then you don't create confusion for the staff that are following you, because it's really one of the most frustrating things for staff. Today they start working on this, tomorrow they're told to stop, then the other day continue, no, now we are going this way. Of course changes should happen, but then there has to be some level of coordination. There has to be also some level of order, so that you can even measure what you're doing as a company in terms of the changes that you're trying to implement.
You did mention that for top management and CEOs, there is need for balance, to balance the need for change with maintaining employee morale. Now, what strategies can they employ to achieve, if you can talk about it as well? I know you did mention quite a number of things for the CEOs to maintain a morale in a company. If you can also talk briefly about it.
Yes, so for employees versus the new changes that you're implementing, top management has to understand that they, just like top management, because if you're a CEO or you're in top management, it doesn't also mean that changes will not affect you. Some changes, some direction come from maybe a shareholder or the board or things like that, and that change could also affect you even if you are in top management. But there are also changes, like we said, which maybe about how a certain function or a certain section or a department needs to start making those changes to work. So as top management, you have to now balance. You have to look at this change you want to bring versus the employee morale. Sometimes if you don't handle these changes properly, like we've said, what it starts to do is the employees then start to feel that there's something drastically changing in this company. Maybe we're closing down, and that starts to make their morale to go down. And now you are running a company with people who are not fully giving themselves or applying themselves. They are reporting for work, but they are in that space where they don't feel they need to apply themselves. They will do some work, just the barest minimum that you cannot fire them. So they are just reporting, they do work without the necessary motivation, because of all the changes that they see that are going to be happening. So as top management, one of the things that we advise is that, like we've said, be very clear about what you want to achieve, then communicate with the staff and keep them well informed, and keep them aware with the challenges that they are going to be facing. Discuss those challenges so that you help them. And like we say, we can even tell when the employees are actually changing. For those that are not changing, again, you take the necessary action. So you have to find that fine balance. Again, where you have challenges of that nature, there are experts that you can bring on board to help, not only to speak to management staff, but they can also talk to the employees, so that there is a clear understanding of what is happening, and to keep the employees well motivated.
If we can also talk about situations where we just come up with changes in companies, but we don't implement them. So how can managers and CEOs ensure that changes are implemented in a way that aligns with the company's overall strategy and goal? Or maybe are there some key performance indicators they should maybe develop to make sure that all the changes that they come up with are well implemented?
Definitely. Top management has a responsibility to make sure that the things that they want to implement, it's very clear. Then you should actually have key performance indicators for that. You should come up with a strategy that also shows you by such and such a time. What are the timelines? You should have a framework to implement these things. What are the timelines? What will be the specific targets for us to know that we have actually achieved this change? This business of, like I said, you just wake up, no, I just, like there are people who just want some change, mzazi wa branch, atimanje tiliko. You just want your powers to be felt, I'm now the new branch manager, I'm the new head of department, so I need to make changes, just they need to know that we are here. No. It's not a matter of they need to know. It's a matter of sitting down and asking yourself as management, where do we want to go? Like I said, what is it that we want to achieve, and in what time frame, so that then you can, as management, you can now put the specific time frames by Q1, Q3, Q4, or by the end of this year, in the next 2 years, in the next 3 years. When we implement these changes now, we want to see this kind of results in the next X amount of time, so that it's very clear. Just bringing changes for purposes of just wanting to create change is not good enough. You have to be very clear what will be the KPIs we'll be checking, so that you can then start measuring how you are making these changes and what progress. And if you need to make adjustments, because you might say, okay, this year we want to make the X amount profit margins if we create these changes here. But as you go along, you find that you are still not reaching your target in terms of the profits you want to make. So you start making changes because you have specific KPIs or key performance indicators you're actually checking. It's like a dipstick in a car, or your fuel gauge. It is telling you how much fuel you have remained with. So, or a compass, you need to have a compass to know where you're going. So in other words, businesses and companies and management needs to sit down and say, where are we going, and how do we measure our progress towards that? Otherwise it becomes a chipante business, which you don't need when you're running a business.
Maybe we can also talk about business owners. They bear an ultimate responsibility for the success of changes within a company. Now, what actions can they take to ensure that they have a smooth transition to maintain a business to continue? Because you did talk about, you've emphasized on change, not to be stuck in the past and whatnot. So in this kind of a situation, what actions can they take to ensure that they have a smooth transition?
Yes, so businesses, when they are making these changes, and I will talk about business owners, when you own a business, again, it's important to clearly understand, just like I was talking about management. Business owners also need to know where are they going. What are the key things for the year they want to focus on? If something is working well, you can still look at it and say, what do we need to improve in this thing which is working well? If your business is doing well in a particular line, the customers are coming in, you need to look at, okay, what kind of competitors could I probably be dealing with? What systems do I put in place? How do I operate to make sure I serve my customers well? The competitors I've talked about, how do we deal with those? The legislation that may be happening, the changes in the business world, what are the things that we actually need to start looking at? So again, rather than just making changes because I need to make a change, you need, if you're running a business, to make sure that you're looking at these changes holistically and asking yourself, what do I need to do? Without putting emotions into these things. Because sometimes it's just an employee who's pissed you off and you want to fix everybody. Maybe this supplier has now made you angry. Some client or the supplier has made you angry. Now you want to change everything. No, you have to realistically look at what is it that we are doing as a business, then where do we want to go? So that even as you discuss, even if you are running a small business, you also have some people, you have somebody you're calling a supervisor. They need to know where you want to go. Even your employees, even if you have 3, 4, 5 employees, you're running your business, you need to make sure that where you want to go and the changes you want to make are actually going to be profitable for your business, so that you are not just making decisions out of emotions.
Well explained, Mr. Kabanda. And before maybe we read some of the text messages which we've received from our viewers, We have been receiving quite a number of text messages about the minimum wage from our viewers. They're waiting, they've been asking, when is government implementing the minimum wage? We've been waiting and whatnot. Maybe if we can talk about it before we read some of the text messages. I know we have one or two from the text messages again.
This issue of the minimum wage is another change for the year. So, yes, government has already issued the statutory instrument to effect the implementation of the new minimum wages for staff. So, for instance, the general workers now, they are entitled to, I think the amount is now sitting at 2,313 kwacha teningwe as gross pay. That includes the basic pay, housing, transport, and lunch. So, then with such changes, it means that the employer has to effect those changes. We expect to see those changes in the January payroll. But those changes again will not just happen at that level, especially if you have employees who are getting who are covered under the minimum wage. You have the drivers, you may have the security guards, you may have secretaries, receptionists, sales people, and all those who are covered in those minimum wages. You need to make sure that you have, as an employer, you have adjusted to these requirements, these new changes. Now, for companies, I understand some have not been able to effect those changes. Really, it means that because the law was passed, so the law you don't negotiate. You basically either have to pay the amount that is given, or you pay above what is given. So what that simply means is that the businesses that don't effect the minimum wages now, they end up becoming, they are going to be required to pay in arrears. So again, if you have some internal operational challenges that have not made it possible for you to effect those changes, then communicate with employees to make them understand clearly that you are going to effect these changes probably in the February payroll and so on. If there are those kind of challenges, again also you have the right to discuss with Labour Office. But what is key is that when it is low, it is low. The only thing you can pay is either what you are required to pay or something above. On top of that, again, I know sometimes employees say, no, but we are not getting that amount. So check also what, if the employer is giving you a house or transport or lunch, they will not pay those things as allowances because they are providing those things. But again, look at the way your company is set up and what, as an employee, you receive. If you are of the view that the employer is not paying what the labor, what the ministry has issued, then again, employees have the right to bring these matters to Labour Office in the places where they are. Now they can even check for contacts even on just Google and check the location for Labour Office and the numbers, and then they can contact the Labour Office directly. Then they report such employers.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I hope they've read
everything
you've explained. Well explained. We can
Yeah.
read some of the text messages, but I know who have something similar to what you just explained. So our first text reads, good afternoon, nice topic. Please, labor matters. Vatipiti samo kuyangana kuli life yama domestic workers. My salary, batifakile koyarishe same is my domestic workers. Mutirekelela mustikambilako, please.
Domestic workers, so those now, they are sitting at 1,300, that's gross pay. Again, check the type of work you are doing. Again, these laws, you can just download them and read. Again, what is the transport, what is the arrangement with the employer? Are they also living in or they're coming from home? There are all those dynamics that have to be looked at. But again, where there are those challenges, people are free to visit Labour Office. Sometimes, again, it's how you arrange in terms of the amount of work, which days the person works in a week, and so there are all those things that can be done to help employers, for instance, if they're having challenges of meeting the minimum wages.
Amazing. This one reads, that is where the problem is, to understand what the company is not paying employees and not abide by the labor laws. Understand what the company is saying. Is it what you labor officers do? Please change. Thank you, sir. You are interpreting very well, but we don't know if these things work from Ndola.
Yeah, again, if I know the biggest issue has been on salaries and payments and all those things. Where, like we've said, where you have a challenge, visit the labor office in the nearest office so that you explain to them what you are earning, how the contract is structured, so that then they can assist in looking at those specifics.
This one reads, I enjoy your program. I have a concern. How can you deal with it when you have been promoted and you report to the company, but the problem comes when the boss told you reporting time is your 7 hours, while himself reports at 10 hours or 11 hours? Getting you from Chama, yours, Mr. Banda.
All right. In the interest of time, but what we can simply say is that check first of all your contract requirements. Follow the contract, not necessarily. The boss should tell you there are requirements in terms of the hours of work, the normal hours by law, as well as what is in the contract. So your obligation is to fulfill the hours of work that are sitting in your contract, but taking into consideration the operations of the institution. If the boss reports at 20 hours, it's not really an issue. We expect bosses to lead by example, but follow what your contract says, because you never know what arrangement the boss has with his own bosses.
Amazing.
Yeah.
We can read two before we close. Good afternoon. With the new SI 48, what is the minimum wage for casual worker per hour? Regards, Caesar.
Please just download the SI. You'll see it's actually the general workers. Look at the general workers, divide by the number of days that you work. So let's say it's 26, divide by 26. That is if you work Monday to Saturday. Divide by a lesser number if you work less than that period. Then you can have your daily rate. Then divide that daily rate by 8 hours, you'll get your hourly rate. So you know what you need to pay them in an hour's time.
Maybe you can read our last text message. Good afternoon. My name is Peter from Ndola. I wanted to ask, where do we report if the minimum wage is not effective due to some company reasons?
Yes, so in Ndola, there should be labor office there. Just report. Again, like we said, you can even just check online. You'll find their contacts. We are not here to represent labor office, by the way. We talk about labor matters, but labor office has got offices in Lusaka and Ndola, and I think also in Kitwe. Just check with them and then report your cases. They should be able to attend to your needs.
Amazing, amazing. Yeah. I know we haven't read all the text messages which we've received, but trust me, Mr. Kabanda will get back to you. He will respond to all the text messages. Maybe before we wrap up the conversation, if you have any final words to employees and employers as they deal with changes that may be happening this year.
Yes, it's really to say that change is the only constant that you should be guaranteed of in life. So if you're an employee, just know that at some point there will be changes that will be happening. If you're an employer, you should know that there will be changes that will be happening. So what is important is that both employees and employers have to embrace change, but let us focus on changing things for the better. That means sit down as a business, as an employee, and say, what do we need to do so that we can continuously improve the way we are doing things. Do not be stuck in the past. Apply yourself and see how best you can then move as an individual and as a business forward.
So thank you very much for making time to be on Labor Matters.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here and looking forward to other conversations.
Amazing. Looking forward to having a great conversation next week.
Thank you.
Amazing. You've been watching Labor Matters right here on KBN TV, the finest television. I am your host.